Yeah, recording. All righty, excellent, folks. So we have a full quorum. We have the town manager here. First order of business, let's talk about approval of meeting minutes for March 30th, 2022. Anybody see anything out of place or anything they want to have any adjustments or changes made to thereof?
No.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Motion, do I hear a second?
Second, Julie.
Josh, if you could take the roll call for us, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Leah. Leah,
Aye. Sorry, I was having mute issues.
Chris,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All righty, excellent. So let's move on to new business. So we're going to take them in the order that they're listed, or do we want to take them out of order?
I'm good either way.
All right, then let's start off with the first one. Order O FY 22-057, transfer order for contract funding. Looks like the total altogether to transfer from other time stabilization fund is $49,215. Let's see, Michael, would you like to give us a little bit of a
Sure, let me,
flavor of what's going on?
yep, let me give you a little bit of background on this because this one might generate some questions, I suspect. So most of these are just, well, all of these are adjustments to contract employees. You guys did voted recommendations on adjustments to what are referred to, I think we refer to them as non-affiliated. So those are people that are employees at will, but do not fall under a collective bargaining agreement. So this is the last piece of the transfers for the year. Pretty straightforward. I don't have any adjustment. The Finance and Accounting Office has some adjustments there, relatively minor. Police Department, very minor adjustment there, and then additional benefits on the police side there as well. So obviously, ATM, the Assistant Town Manager, has a significant change, and that is a result of what's referred to excuse me, as the Massachusetts Equal Pay Act. The Equal Pay Act came into existence in 2018, or adjustments to it went into effect in 2018, July 1st of 2018. And under the law, employers cannot discriminate against employees because of their gender when deciding pay rates and wages. So employers cannot pay workers a salary or wage that's less than what they pay comparable employees of a different gender for comparable work. So we knew, based upon the study that we had commissioned, the wage study that we had commissioned a number of years ago, probably 2018, we knew that we had equal pay issues throughout town. So we took a long time, and I can tell you that the Assistant Town Manager wanted to make sure that she was not, that she was not addressed first. She wanted to make sure that anything that had to be done on her salary in particular was done last. So I give her a lot of credit for that because it's been a long adjustment period. But regardless, with these, you made a bunch of adjustments over the last 3 years in a number of different areas, particularly, well, I won't name them all, but accounting made adjustments there. You also made adjustments in elder services and a number of other places. So those adjustments all have been made. So this is sort of the last piece of that. The finance director and the assistant town manager fall on the same grade. And right now, the assistant town manager base is $107,000. After all the adjustments are made, it'll be 142. That won't bring her quite up to finance director, but it will bring her within a range that's appropriate. So that is the excuse me, the very basic history of that. It's not, we don't and can't consider it a quote unquote raise because it's a salary adjustment based upon, you know, the known violations of the Equal Pay Act that we have. So that's where essentially where we stand at this point, but I know there probably are some questions and I'm happy to answer those.
All right. Before we continue, I did notice that the vice chair is in, so if everyone is okay, I will yield back my chairing of the meeting to give it to Eric.
MJ, I thought you were gonna let me off the hook all night.
If
Appreciate
you wish,
you.
I can do so.
No, I was having some computer issues, so I apologize to everybody for being late. Thank you.
Not to worry.
I was going to only mention that this has been the best 5 minutes of a finance committee I've ever had.
I believe it. Without me and Nate, definitely. All right.
So Eric, we were just, you guys had done the minutes and I was just addressing the first item on your agenda, which I think is labeled contract funding, transfer order for contract funding.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Michael on this order?
I just have, you said it's a one-time thing and that we had some violations. Did we pay any fines at any time for being in violation, or was there a certain number of time where we could, you know, rectify the situation before any fines were assessed?
That's a great question, Julie. We were ahead of the curve on identifying where we had lapses. So we methodically addressed those lapses. That we didn't have a fine. We didn't have anybody file a complaint. And internally, we were very upfront about with the employees that were affected that we knew we had an issue and we were attempting to fix it. So I think pretty much everybody was pleased with that.
Okay.
With that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question, Michael.
Sure, Rick.
It's great to hear that, you know, that the town was very transparent and upfront with it. Does this exempt the town from any future liability? Did those who were impacted, you know, did they have to sign some type of agreement, you know, stating that they won't pursue any action?
Another good question. We can't require employees to sign an agreement to that effect. However, we knew about the issue. We corrected the issue with everybody, but the assistant town manager, with her consent. So yeah, there's no, the town at this point can't be liable because we've addressed those issues. That's a short answer, I guess.
Thank you. And does this adjustment bring, you know, the ATM in par with industry standard, other ATMs that have a similar town?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So interestingly, I'll only add, Rick, to my answer, an answer to the question you didn't ask. So when we do the analysis, we always do, when we do a classification survey, we always look at other towns. That's essentially what a classification and compensation survey is. So we always look at other towns. In this case, when under the law, the analysis isn't necessarily with other towns. The analysis is internally. So it's one employer paying two or multiple employees different rates. And honestly, you know, we looked across when we did our analysis several years ago. Excuse me, we realized that as a matter of fact, there was a discrepancy, and honestly not intentional on our part at least, but there was a discrepancy between female and male compensations. So that the law doesn't really there's no mea culpa involved. I mean, it's either, you're paying equal pay rates without regard to gender, or you're not. And so we realized that we weren't, and that we had to make adjustments there.
So is it strictly gender and not because it's a gender equal law, pay law, as opposed to sometimes doesn't experience or degrees or anything like that factor in, or just?
Those can factor in. There are what are referred to, not exemptions, but like affirmative defenses. And if you have a system that differentiates pay rates based on experience, that's acceptable. So you could be, like the most obvious example probably are the public safety areas. So you have, when you start in public safety, you make a pretty low salary, but then it goes up fairly quickly. So by year 7, you're pretty well paid. So, if you had a woman starting in year 1 and you had a man who was in year 7, that's an acceptable difference. Even though you're both officers, you're both, out on patrol, that's an acceptable difference because there's an experience difference there. Same is true with education. If you build into your compensation system educational differences, that's acceptable. And actually, I'd use the police or fire again. If I'm but 2 officers at 7 years experience making the same, except for one's got more education, well, we pay more for education as part of an educational incentive. So that is acceptable. If the woman were making, $60,000 and the man was making $70,000, both with equal experience, but they had different educational background, or the man had more education, that would be an acceptable defense. So,
Right. So
That's
if
a
we
good
don't
question.
have, do we not have that for assistant manager and town manager and the finance director? Because you said it was unintentional, but if we don't have that criteria based on experience, then 33,000 is kind of substantial to be missed.
well, we didn't miss it. We knew about it, right from the get-go. But as I say, the assistant town manager wanted to make sure that we corrected all the other issues that we had
Okay.
before we addressed that position. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Dutton at this time? Does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Oh, sorry, MJ, just for clarification for Josh, to approve,
Yes.
MJ?
Yes.
Thank you. And I missed the second.
Susie, second.
Thank you, Susie. Josh, when you're ready.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Before I vote, may I just make a statement? Number one, I think it's very commendable that the town has identified it, and even more commendable that the assistant town manager, wanted to take care of other business. So I certainly want that to go on record, and I would hope that as we continue to grow as a town that operates fair and equitable, that we will certainly not have these issues. So my answer is aye. Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. I'm gonna talk about the agenda for half a second, because our next 5 orders are all budget orders, and how we handled this in past years, and Michael, you'd probably be familiar with this. I had discussed it with Tony offline. It's how Nate did it last year with Tony as well, is we as a team kind of went through those budget, given this is the first time we're seeing them ourselves, put together our questions. Nate pulled together all the questions. We sent them over to Tony before the next meeting so that Tony was kind of prepared to, one, go through the questions that we had as a group. Two, it let everybody take a little bit of time to digest the budget orders. And I thought it worked really well myself, and admittedly so. I know Josh sent this out a couple days in advance, which was great, but I haven't had a ton of time to dive into any of the budget documents, and I don't have any questions personally right now. I'm sure some folks do. But I think in the interest of time and in having a value add conversation, I think it probably makes sense not to table the budget orders, but we have some time on these, to have the committee take a read through, put together some questions. If there are some high level general questions that we can answer as a committee, we can talk through those tonight. But I also want to be respectful of Mr. Dutton's time. If the committee is in agreement that we will take the same approach as we've taken the last couple years, and then we can talk about the golf ordinances. But I do want to get a poll of the team before we kind of move forward. I'll just go around the room, and I'll start with MJ. MJ, does that make sense to you? Do you have any concerns with that?
Well, having seen you guys do it in past years when I was your secretary, I have honestly no issue with it. It allows us proper time to ask questions. And honestly, I actually want to go along with the tried and true process we've done in years past, simply because it seems to be the most productive and efficient way of tackling the budget.
Excellent. Chris, any concerns?
No concerns. It makes sense to me.
Okay. Susie?
I'm good, thank you.
Rig?
I have no concerns.
Leah?
All good.
And Julie?
I don't know if it's a concern. I just have a question on the dates of when we would be, when would the next meeting be? Is it 2 weeks from now? And when do we actually have to approve the budget? I know you said we have time, but could you just review the timeline for me again? Or can somebody?
Yeah, Michael, do you have the timeline in front of you?
I don't have the timeline, but I can tell you, we are shooting. Let me pull up my calendar. We are shooting for May 10th. So you've got just shy of 3 weeks.
So
Sorry, just shy of 4 weeks, right?
Yeah. Our next meeting would be 4/20. And we have in the past met more regularly for the budget if need be. If that helps at all, Julie.
Okay, yeah, so we're meeting weekly, not I thought we met every 2 weeks, because that's a week away. So that's
I'm
my
sorry.
concern.
Yeah, I apologize. It would be 4/27. You are absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm traveling in that day, so I hope I can make that meeting. That's the only reason. I just wanted to confirm the date. Okay, I'll do my best to make that one.
Julie, I
Thank you.
think too, if you have questions, you can send them in advance, and we can ask Tony to get some answers out even prior to the meeting. We'd obviously do it through Josh and not violate any open meeting laws, but if that's helpful for anybody, more than happy to
Okay,
take that approach.
thank you.
Okay. Excellent. All right, Michael, is there anything before we move off these 4 or 5 budget orders that you want us to know about the budget, or?
Nothing, in particular. I will tell you that I think there's a reference in the budget message to an additional, we were trying to add an additional section this year. And Tony may have spoken to you about this, or he may intend to speak to you about this, but our intent was to, have each department generate a mission statement, describe essentially the programs that are run out of that department, and then to sort of describe, departmental goals for the upcoming year. It was this would have been the first year we've done that. I mean, we're trying to drag the town into, a little bit more sophisticated, budgeting little by little by little. And we were hoping to take that step this year. All the departments, to their credit, got their sort of pieces done on that. We're calling, I can't remember what we called it. We had a term that we were using internally, but they all addressed it. They all developed mission statements. They all, identified programs. But honestly, it was. I think we need another summer of practice to make sure that we get it right for publication. So it was actually quite educational for me, quite honestly, because it gave me a gauge of where how the departments are thinking, sort of strategically, how they're thinking long-term or how they're not thinking long-term. So it was quite helpful for me, but it doesn't help you. But I think as we go along, we may try, may try to at least give you the sort of the program piece so that you get an idea of what the departments actually do. Because I think once you look at that, it's a very impressive array of things. You just look at the fire department budget and you look at it sort of in a vacuum, right? It has staffing, it has, you might look at the ambulance receipts or what have you. But until you really understand what the department is truly responsible for and what their obligations are around town, other than just fighting fires, you can't really appreciate. You'll have a better appreciation of the numbers, I think, once you really look at the programs. So we may try to push out some form of that to you between now and your next meeting, but we had intended to give you a really nice polished budget book, including all of that material, but we decided it would be a little more confusing and disjointed for you at this point. So that really is the only thing I wanted just as a
Perfect.
overview.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Eric, sorry to interrupt you that. I
Go
don't know if Tony mentioned it on his call with you, but he is offering for any of the new members or any interested members introductory to the budget, just like a virtual meeting if anybody was interested. If you want to just send the questions and you're interested in that, we'll put something together.
Yeah, Josh, thank you. I remembered that after the fact, and I did have it written down to just say it, but absolutely. Some of you that are a little bit newer to the budget process or haven't been through this before, Tony has sat down with past members and gone through questions, the budget, helped explain the budget. Anybody that's interested in that prior to our next meeting, or even after our next meeting, if you have more questions for him, he has absolutely offered that up, because I think it's time well spent for not only him, but for anybody that is interested in it. It gives you a little bit more context about what we're speaking about. I mean, I think some of us look at it and go, well, it's 55% the school, it's, another 20% police and fire. And when you really dig into it, there's take away the 5 or 6 really big pieces, there's not a lot to the budget. But I think other folks who haven't seen it for years have certain questions, and it is absolutely time well spent. So thank you for that, Josh. All right, excellent. So I think from a next step perspective, let's throw together our questions. You can send them, Josh, if you don't mind, I'll have them send them to you just so we don't violate anything, and then Nate or I can consolidate that and get it over to Tony once everybody gets a chance. Why don't we say by middle of next week? If you haven't had a chance to get your questions in, that's fine. Just let us know. All right. And get something to Tony before the Monday before the meeting. Great. With that, I will move on to the next order of business, which is golf related, which is always a fun conversation in Bridgewater. And I'm just looking on my agenda for the ordinance number, which is DFY 22-23, which is revoking the Golf Enterprise Fund. I assume this is not budget related and is tied to the new management down at the golf course, but I don't want to assume, and I'll ask Michael for a little context on that.
Nope, you assumed correctly. These two essentially go together. D 22023 and 23001 essentially work together. So one revokes the enterprise fund. So every year, for those members that have been around for a while, every year you would get the enterprise fund budgets. An enterprise fund is essentially a business enterprise, government speak for a business enterprise. The revenues of the business are meant to match the expenses of the business. And so that most things aren't like that in government. So the legislature allows all towns to create enterprise funds to run things like golf courses specifically. And sometimes obviously our sewer operation and our water operation where the revenues or the fees paid go to cover the expenses involved in water treatment or sewer treatment, wastewater treatment. So we have no need for the enterprise fund any longer now that we have a management contract. So we don't expend any money to support the golf course operations. So we actually should, not only can we, but we should revoke the enterprise fund. But then I'll jump ahead to the acceptance of the receipts reserved for appropriation account. That would be the appropriate place to put the payments or the revenue piece that we get from the golf course into a separate account. And then that account is then appropriated pursuant to your recommendation and the council's vote. So that's essentially what those two are, but I'm happy to answer questions about that.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jay.
Michael, so since we're getting rid of the enterprise fund and then we're going to change it into the revolving fund, how much is currently in the enterprise fund right now? And is that going to be transferred into the new account, or is that set to be expended to close out the account? Because sometimes if you have an account and you're closing it, you usually spend what remains in there for that purpose.
Nope, good question. So I believe at last count there was $350,000. Now we will have to. There are certain odds and ends that we have to tie up out of that account, but then whatever's left in there will be transferred to the receipts reserved for appropriation account.
Any other? Let's start with the revoking of the enterprise fund. Any other questions on the revoking of the enterprise fund? Do I have any motions?
Motion to
Motion
revoke.
to approve.
I heard MJ first. I apologize. I think Chris.
Sorry,
was the
Chris.
second.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
I just have a question though. The management company, how is it what is the length of the contract type of thing and things like that? And I don't know. I mean, is there a reason why we didn't have a management contract before? And how long is there a contract when you say we entered into a thing with the management company?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a contract. I won't get into why we didn't have one before because that's a conversation that go on for days.
I know, but just for some people that wouldn't, I just meant, all right, so we're having one going forward, and how long do we have it for?
So it's a 5-year contract with a 5-year renewable option by the town.
And if we don't renew it, would we be going back to the old way and need that that enterprise fund again?
If we did not, if for some reason we didn't renew and we decided against going to another management company, we would just create another, we'd recreate the enterprise fund. All it takes is a vote, your recommendation and a vote by the council to create a new one. So that's what we would do. I don't anticipate doing that, but that's how easy it is.
And so anyway, if this management company is not working out a way to get out of the contract with this company, or is that?
Yep, we can terminate it at any time.
Okay, all right, then, yeah, okay, I'll vote aye. Thank you.
Yep.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Moving on to proposed ordinance FY 2301, which is the acceptance of the Old Scottish Golf Link receipt reserved for appropriation. Any further questions for Michael on that order? Do I have any more? Yep,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman, and just to confirm, so for folks at home that may be watching and listening in, by virtue of the fact that we voted to revoke the enterprise fund, we have to approve the creation of this receipts reserved for appropriation account, correct?
Technically, you wouldn't have to, but it's certainly the recommendation of management to create
Well,
an account that actually holds the revenue specific to the golf course.
'Cause if we didn't, where would the money go? Because like to MJ's point, we just eliminated the other account, right?
So, yeah, if you didn't vote to establish a receipts reserve for appropriation, it would just go into the general fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Motion to approve, Chris.
Second.
Second. I'll give that one to Rig.
Thanks, MJ.
Eric,
You're welcome.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Excellent. That brings us to the end of the agenda for the night. Again, I will before I look for a motion to adjourn, just ask that the team takes some time over the next week or so, puts together any questions you have about the budget. Let's me or Nate or Tony know if you'd like to have a separate conversation and learn more about the budget. And we'll come prepared to the next meeting to have a good conversation about where we stand and where we're moving in the future. So,
Eric, before we close, can we specify a specific date next week? You said mid next week. Are you referring to
Yeah.
Wednesday or?
yeah, no,
Thursday?
I just want to make sure we have enough time. Let's say end of day Wednesday, so that we have enough time to kind of pull everything together and get it over to Tony by Friday or Monday latest. I don't want him not having any time to see it before we reconvene. I think it'll be better time spent for us if he's seen the questions we have and can pull together his thoughts and be prepared to talk about them. That'll make it a more productive conversation.
That's fair. Thank you.
Is that fair for everybody? Does that work?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And with that, I will thank you all for your time tonight, and I'll ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thanks, everybody.
Second.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Take
Good,
care,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, everyone.